New Japan Pro Wrestling presents Wrestle Kingdom 18 this Thursday from the Tokyo Dome. This will be the first Dome show under President Tanahashi, although the card was already booked before he took over. So we'll have a better feel for what a New Japan under Tanahashi will look like when we get to Wrestle Kingdom 19. We always end up with at least a couple of Match of the Year candidates out of the Dome show. This year's show featured the return of Kenny Omega and the debut of Mercedes Moné. Starts at 1:30 in the morning. That's Eastern time. I am not watching it live. I'm first going to be wrapping up my Dynamite stream at that time. So I will watch it sometime later in the morning. And either try to get a review up later on Thursday, or I may just save my thoughts for episode 842 next Sunday. They have the New Japan Ranbo, which is Royal Rumble style, except they allow for pinfalls and submissions, and I believe disqualifications as well. This is where they include all the people not on the main card, until 4 men remain, and those 4 will then wrestle at their New Year Dash show the next day to decide the first King of Pro Wrestling champion for 2024. We have Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors defending their IWGP Junior Tag Team titles against Francesco Akira and TJP. They just had a match last week on one of their Road to shows, Road to the Tokyo Dome shows. It was a coffin match. Not sure why, but it was a coffin match, which Akira and TJP lost. So just by virtue of that, I'm picking them to win the titles here. But I read a lot about what a great team they are, how they're one of the best in the world right now, so I'm looking forward to seeing this match. We have Yota Tsuji taking on Yuya Uemura, the battle between 2 potential future main eventers. And this is their first singles match against each other since their days as Young Lions. Uemura just returned from excursion 3 months ago, and what I have seen of Tsuji, I can see why people speak so highly of him. Looks like he's got the tools to be one of their top stars, so I'm going Yota Tsuji as my pick to win. Kaito Kiyomiya, the young ace from Pro Wrestling Noah, who has been working quite a bit with New Japan over the past year. He was in the G1 as well. So I wonder if in the end he ends up signing with New Japan. He teams with Shota Umino against Evil and Ren Narita. Which, if Evil is involved, I'm sure that we will be seeing the other House of Torture members here. I'm going to go with Evil and Narita for the win. Shingo Takagi, one-on-one with Tama Tonga for the Never Openweight title. 3 years ago at Wrestle Kingdom, Shingo was fighting for the same title. Now he's here defending it. He's too good to be stuck wrestling for the Never Openweight title. So I'm going to say he retains, but I would like to see him challenging for something a lot bigger than that at the next Dome show. We have Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi taking on El Phantasmo and Hikuleo for the IWGP Tag Team titles and the New Japan Strong Tag Team titles. Champions against champions, so we are guaranteed to have new Tag Team champions one way or the other. I don't know if the idea is that they're unifying them, or if they're going to do a WWE deal where one team carries around all 4 belts, but they should probably just unify them. This is a rematch from the World Tag League Finals. Apparently these 4 tore it up, had a 40-minute main event. Here they're probably going to get, 10 or 15 on the undercard? El Phantasmo has said his contract with New Japan is up on January 31st. And what he does next depends on how things go for him on this show. I think he and Hikuleo win the IWGP Tag Team titles. I'm surprised Hikuleo didn't end up in WWE earlier this year when they had interest in him, so I wonder what happened there. Zack Sabre Jr. defends his New Japan Television title against Hiroshi Tanahashi. What a night it would be if the new president gets himself booked to win the championship. He's already 1/3 of the Never 6-Man champions with Okada and Ishii. So he would be a double champion if he wins the match here. Sabre is the first TV champion. He's been the only TV champion since he won it at the last Dome show, so it's going to be a year for him. But you can't have Tanahashi win here. I mean, just for the visual of it, you can't have Tanahashi win. Let Sabre win, and then he could drop the title in the next few months to someone younger who could benefit from it. And then that frees Sabre up for bigger things, which clearly I think they're building him for. That would make the most sense to me. I think Sabre retains. We have Hiromu Takahashi against El Desperado for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Like Sabre, Takahashi won the title at this year's Wrestle Kingdom, and he has held it for a year. Hiromu handpicked Desperado as his opponent here. I'm going to say Takahashi retains. Then we have Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley, and David Finlay in a three-way to crown the first ever IWGP Global Champion. This comes after Finlay destroyed the US and UK belts with a hammer. They have been trying with Finlay as a heel, but he's the one in this equation where when you look at this match, it's the old which one of these does not belong thing. For Ospreay, it's his final Dome match as a full-time star in New Japan, because he's already signed with AEW. But he does not officially start with AEW until the end of the month. So he could win the title here and still drop it before he starts with AEW. I don't think Moxley is winning it, so I'll take his name out of the equation. I think it's either Ospreay or Finlay. Finlay is the only full-time New Japan star right now here in this match, so it probably should be him, but I'm going to go with Will Ospreay, with the idea that he then drops it to somebody else by the end of January. Yeah, it's too bad that Tanahashi only became president this week, because maybe if he came in a little bit earlier, he would have resurrected the Intercontinental title instead of this global title nonsense. I still, to this day, don't know why they got rid of that title. We have Bryan Danielson, one-on-one against Kazuchika Okada in a rematch from Forbidden Door. Will this be Okada's final Dome match as a New Japan talent? He is supposedly going to explore free agency at the end of the month, but that was before the announcement of Tanahashi becoming president. Okada apparently did not like Takami Obari, the outgoing president, and supposedly he wanted him gone. And now he is. I think that bodes well for Okada staying with New Japan, which is exactly where he should be. And there's no way he loses again to Bryan Danielson. You know, I had this, their first match, I had that on my list of the top 20 best matches of 2023. I had it at number 17, which is pretty fucking low for a Danielson-Okada match. As underwhelming as it felt in some regards, it was still a very good match, but it was definitely missing something. Now, Danielson suffering a broken arm with 10 minutes left in the match, that may have had something to do with that. They may have been limited in the things that they had planned. But Danielson in Japan, Danielson in the Dome, for the first time since 2004, that's something I've been waiting for ever since he left WWE and he signed with AEW. You know, in WWE, it wasn't possible. He tried to convince them many, many years ago to let him work a match against Shinsuke Nakamura. When Nakamura was still, I think he was the Intercontinental Champion in New Japan at the time. And they said no. He wanted to do a champion versus champion match, and they turned him down. Actually, I think they just didn't get back to him, which basically is no. When he signed with AEW, it suddenly became possible for him to do this sort of thing. And he still has yet to go over to Japan. Now, his body now is breaking down on him. He's already announced that he's going to retire as a full-time wrestler next year. So this is it. This may be our last chance to see it happen. So I'm expecting big things from these two, but I think Okada gets his win back. And the main event is Sanada defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against the winner of the G1 Climax, Tetsuya Naito. Naito is looking for his fourth IWGP title. There's a lot of history with these two. Both were members of LIJ. They even won the IWGP tag titles together once. But Sanada left LIJ earlier this year. This was right after Sanada beat Naito en route to winning the New Japan Cup. He felt he could never be a true top guy if he stayed in the group. So he left. It doesn't feel as big as most other Tokyo Dome main events that they've done, but from what I understand, if you go to these New Japan shows, and it's one thing I would love to do one day is go to Japan and maybe around G1 time or something and just take in a whole bunch of shows, but if you are there and you are attending these New Japan shows, something like 90% of the merch that people are wearing, it's either for Naito or LIJ. So this match is a big deal. You know, Naito lost in the Wrestle Kingdom 12 main event, famously. Or maybe infamously. He lost in the Wrestle Kingdom 12 main event. He won at Wrestle Kingdom 14. That was the double gold dash against Okada. But then he got laid out right after by Kenta. And he never got the chance to do the full roll call for his group, which is a big deal. He got laid out first. So this could be his last chance at it. And also earlier this year, remember, Keiji Muto, he retired. Muto chose Naito as his final opponent for the Dome, even though it technically ended up being Chono, but we'll forget that for a second. He chose Naito to be his final opponent over his own protege, Sanada. So there's that element of the story between them as well. As far as who I think wins, I think Naito is going to win the title. I think Naito wins the championship. I think, I don't want to say his window is closing like he's retiring imminently. I mean, he's in his early 40s. I mean, he could still have many more years. But, he's dealt with injuries. He's talked about the eye. He's had surgery several times on his eye. In fact, he has said that the surgery he had on his eye, he was told by his doctors he can only have it up to 3 times. And I think he just had his 3rd one, which, it affects the vision in his eye. So, he's got things going on. Who knows how many more years he has, especially on top as like a top level performer. But I think Naito is going to walk out with the championship.